All right, good evening. I call this meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. Directors present tonight are Director Nimmo, Director Kuhlenberg, myself, Director DeFreitas, Director After, and Director Ramirez. It's like I need to still read your name on the corner there. Sorry. Thank you to our interpreter, Rodrigo. Would you please share the interpretation instructions with our participants, and then we can turn on the interpretation function. Thank you. The first business in order on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Directors, are there any proposed changes? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion. Our next agenda item is our opening celebrations and updates by our superintendent. Oh, sorry. Our next agenda item is our opening celebrations and updates by our superintendent, Dr. Anna Cole.
Good evening. January is School Board Recognition Month, and we are joining other school districts across the state to thank our 5 community volunteers and leaders for their commitment and contributions to the Roaring Fork schools. School board members, as you 5 know well, and our community probably knows as well, serve countless hours working to make public education the best it can be for every child. They develop policies and make difficult decisions on complex educational and social issues that affect the entire community and the lives of individual students. In the Roaring Fork schools, this team bears responsibility and oversight for an annual budget of over $100 million of public funding, over 5,000 students ages 6 weeks old to 21, more than 800 employees, and 14 unique schools. Ensuring that all students have the knowledge, skills, and character to thrive in a changing world is a tremendous task, a task that this particular group of leaders brings their full hearts, minds, years of experience, and hard work to bear. As elected officials, school board members are the voice of their communities, serving first and foremost in the best interest of our children. We are so grateful for this remarkable and dedicated team of leaders. So thank you. A couple other celebrations this week. Want to celebrate and recognize the Glenwood Springs High School Demons Air Force Junior ROTC. They hosted a unit assessment on January 21st last week and scored an impressive 98.5 and earned an overall rating of exceeds standards for the unit assessment, the highest rating attainable. This outstanding achievement reflects the dedication and leadership of JROTC educators Greg Pfeiffer and Jessica Pfeiffer, who deserve special recognition for mentoring and guiding the Glenwood Springs High School cadets. Also want to shout out to cadets Zelter, Zarate, and Fitzgerald for their great job on the unit mission briefing. I was privileged to attend the mission briefing and was so impressed by the preparation, confidence, and dedication demonstrated by these demon leaders. As an additional part of the unit assessment and visit, second-year cadets performed a nearly flawless 30-step sequence, as did the color guard. So many congratulations to JROTC. Also want to thank the parents, partners, and staff who attended our district school safety forum last night. Special thanks to Lieutenant Dietrich from City of Glenwood Springs Police Department, Chief Wilson and Officer Fields from Carbondale Police Department, and Lieutenant Munch and Officer Hagberg from Basalt PD, who co-presented with district leaders, including Christina Vargas, Kelly Medina, Joel Hathaway, and Roaring Fork Schools School Safety and Security Coordinator Dustin Garing. The meeting provided a valuable opportunity for Roaring Fork Schools to share the systems, practices, and resources we utilize to keep our kids, staff, students, and community safe. And a recording is available online if folks missed the presentation. So we'll add it to our school safety website, but right now it's on our YouTube channel. You can find it there. And then finally, want to really appreciate the Glenwood Springs Middle School student, staff, families, leaders, and the Glenwood Springs Middle School support crew, including custodial facilities, food service, health services, and district office support teams, as they are continuing to help Glenwood Springs Middle School navigate particularly high incidence of norovirus type illnesses. It's astounding. We've been able to keep the school open and safe and are delighted to welcome back students, staff, and families after they've had 48 hours without symptoms. 48 hours without symptoms. I know we aren't through the woods yet, keeping everyone healthy and present, but a huge kudos to the Cougar crew for great teamwork this week. Thanks.
That, jumping around. The next business in order is a pre-collegiate program update presentation from Dave Smith. And thank you so much for being here.
No problem. Hi, everybody. It's been a while, so it's good to see everybody. Thank you guys for taking the time. I'll be brief, and obviously to the extent you guys have questions, I'm happy to answer any of those. Jonathan's going to trust me driving, and I don't think that's a good idea, but we'll figure out if I can do it or not. So I wanted to just give you guys a quick program update on where we are this year. It's been an interesting year for pre-collegiate. We are in year 2 of a 3-year strategic planning process, which has been really good for us and sort of illustrative to some of our focus. We did start out the year down a staff member, and we made the strategic decision at the beginning of the year not to replace that position for this year. So we've been doing a little bit more with less as we start to figure out some of the longer term staffing and budgeting needs for the program. I'll talk about that a little bit. I know it's very tiny and you don't need to read it, but I wanted to make sure you guys had our sort of 3-year overview of some of the strategic initiatives. And I'll highlight some of the ones we're really focused on this year and where we sort of stand. Obviously, like I said, we're in year 2. We have a couple of different strategic initiatives that we've been exploring, both organizationally and operationally. Some of the big things we're focused on is measuring our outcomes a little bit better and tracking some data. But like I said, this sort of big tenor this year was our model for program support and budget. Just a quick refresh so you guys know, we receive a flat contribution from the school district every year, and then we go out and privately fundraise the rest of our operating budget. So as our staffing needs kind of vacillate, so do our fundraising needs. This year, the district's contributing a little over 1/3 of our operating, and then we go out and fundraise the rest. The good news is we're on track this year from a fundraising perspective. We still have about $75,000 we'd like to raise between now and the end of the school year to meet our operational needs for this year. But that's pretty good since we started out the year at a little over $350,000 we needed to raise. So we're feeling pretty good. Looking ahead to next year, obviously, we would love to get back up to what we considered more of a full staffing. The way we've handled that this year is I had been working as a sort of backup with some of our senior class at Glenwood Springs High School for the last couple of years. I've moved to Roaring Fork High School this year, and I'm running all of Roaring Fork High School, all 9th through 12th grade, which has been, I feel like the new kid at school. I haven't been in that building in a while, so it's been an adjustment for me, especially I love working with the younger students, but it is a lot. We have a full cohort at Roaring Fork, which is great. But we would love to get another staff member hired next year. So we are looking at our fundraising needs. Obviously, like I said, if we add a staff member, we just have increasing fundraising goals that we have to hit for next year. So Anna and I are meeting about budget next week, and then I'll meet with Christy too, and we'll sort of start to figure out what it looks like for the next couple of years. We are focused a lot on development work. We have actually, in the last part of our strategic plan, we hired a part-time development person to help us with some of those outreach and engagement, and that has yielded a lot of additional fundraising sources, which has been great. We were very excited to find out we had a legacy donor gift this past year that has allowed us to start and create an endowment at the Aspen Community Foundation, which is really amazing. So we're hoping that endowment will get up and running full speed by next year, so to start to spit off some additional income that we can rely on an annual basis, which is really great. We've been reinvigorating our advisory board. So we have a separate advisory board. Obviously doesn't have fiduciary responsibility or anything like that, but it helps guide us through this process. What's been really exciting about that is we've added 4 alumni to that advisory board. So we're trying to increase the alumni voice and participation in the board, which is really awesome. Like I mentioned, we're trying to refine how we track data. We've been working with the data team here to look at the metrics we really like to track year over year, especially some of our post-secondary metrics are once they leave here and go to college or go into the workforce or whatever, how are we tracking that data and starting to get a better sense of what those outcomes look like. We've had a big push around alumni and youth voice this year. So trying to get alumni voice back into the program, both curricularly, like helping us with what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, and also the students that we're currently serving. So we have group leaders at every building that we're serving, and they're meeting with our alumni coordinator. Right now, it's about every month in order to tackle some of the topics we have, like, are we doing the right things in 9th grade curriculum or 10th grade's curriculum? So it's really great to have those student voices in the room. And then our hope is that we're able to bring some of those students to meet with our advisory board to have a larger discussion about some of our big picture stuff. The other big question mark we've had for a while is some of our post-secondary partnerships. You guys know we rely heavily on our partnerships with CMC and CU Boulder. We've expanded our partnerships this year to include Metro and DU. We're still thinking through what our summer programming looks like for our students. CU is changing a lot in a lot of ways. And so we are going to run our normal summer program at CU Boulder this year for our rising seniors, but we're not entirely sure what it looks like after that. So we're going to continue our relationship and partnership with CU to kind of hopefully figure out ways to continue to get students onto college campuses, ideally in a residential setting, so that we can start to see some real connection points between what they're doing here when we're working on forms and FAFSA and scholarship applications, and hopefully what they're actually seeing on the college campuses. So that's still our goal for upcoming, and we want to continue to expand those partnerships to the extent that we can. Quick enrollment update. So we're feeling pretty good about our enrollment overall as a program. As of right now, in grades 8 to 12, we have a little over 300 students enrolled in the program across the 4 middle schools and 3 high schools that we serve. We've been very intentional about how we do enrollment over the last few years. So our capacity internally is about 70 students per grade level across the district. But you can see, like, for our middle school in 8th grade right now, we only have 47 students, and that's on purpose. We're trying to make sure that we're doing a good job of enrolling students who are really partnering with us and want to be there and willing to give up recess to come hang out with us, rather than being dragged there, or and which tends to create some issues for us down the line when we're starting to see them turn into high school students. But you can see by the time we get up to our senior class, we're actually over capacity with our seniors right now. We have 72 seniors across the district. So that's kind of our plan, is continuing to build and continue to add students into the program, so that by the time, obviously senior year being one of the most important, we're at or above our capacity. We're at or above our capacity right now at Roaring Fork and Basalt. So we have, you can kind of see it varies based on the size of the building, but we're excited to say we're over 15% of the total student body there is enrolled in pre-collegiate. That's all students, not just first generation students. And then GSHS, which is our biggest cohort, it's obviously also the biggest school. So we still are trying to figure out ways we can make sure we're having that same kind of impact. What we love about that is there's a spillover effect that occurs. You know, students who are in pre-collegiate are talking to students who aren't in pre-collegiate and being able to, you know, help them with scholarship applications and answer questions about the FAFSA and things like that, which is really fun to see. So overall, we feel like enrollment is on track. And, you know, we're hoping that that's going to stay. We've still got wait lists in a couple of buildings and a couple of grade levels, and we've still had strong interest from students, which is really fun to watch. Demographics, this is just really quick. We're about 35% male, 65% female. 95% Hispanic, Latinx identifying students. Obviously, we're open to any student in the district, regardless of race, income, background, ethnicity, status, anything like that, as long as they identify as first generation. So that's just the demographics that we're seeing as we're starting to go through this year. Couple of real celebrations. The class of 2025, which just graduated. I know that not just, it was a year ago, but it's the last time since I've been here. We had 58 seniors last year, so it was just a little bit of a smaller class for us, but they got 465 college acceptances. All of them graduated from high school. All of them completed the FAFSA. 60% of them were Pell eligible, so eligible for the Pell Grant. They received about $700,000 in scholarships between local scholarships and the grants from the colleges that they're going to. And we had them go kind of all over the place. We had 2 join the U.S. Army. We had 2 go straight into the workforce. CMC got the most students last year from our cohort. Mesa right behind them, and then CSU and CU Boulder were tied behind that. We also had 14 students go out of state, which is great. So, and that's been historically about the right number for us. We've had about 25% of our students leave and go out of state somewhere. What we're excited about this year, class of 2026, obviously the seniors we're working with right now, we've had some early successes, which we're really excited about. We had a student match to the QuestBridge scholarship with a full ride to MIT. We had another student match through QuestBridge and is going on a full ride to Notre Dame. We have a couple other major scholarship finalists we're still waiting on. But most of our seniors are still in that mix of like trying to make sure they get through the scholarship applications, which are happening right now, and piecing together their financial plan for what looks like the next step. So we'll have a lot more information once we start to see those financial aid numbers coming in from the colleges. So all in all, it's been very busy. We're excited about the next couple of years. I think, like I said, for us, the biggest picture right now is just sort of seeing if we're going to be feeling comfortable with bringing back on an additional staff member next year, and what that's going to look like from a fundraising and budgeting perspective, to make sure that we're able to continue to sustainably keep the program going at the service levels that we want to. We've been really excited this year to see that even with being down a staff member, our outcomes haven't changed that much, but I know my staff is doing more with less. And so we're trying to make sure we're figuring out ways to continue to improve that and give them the support they need. So happy to answer any questions about programming, big picture, things like that, how we're doing, what we're doing. But I just appreciate the time to give you guys a quick little update.
Thank you so much. Each board member will now have 2 minutes to share comments or ask questions, and we'll begin with Director Kuhlenberg.
I don't have any questions right now. I applaud you for getting through this year with one less staff member. I know that's hard, and I think we're feeling that across the district. So as we get into budgeting season, it's a great time to have had this conversation and understand where you all are and what you're dealing with and the impact that you're having on kids in classrooms. Because I only ever hear positive anecdotal stories about experiences with pre-collegiate. And I think that says a lot because oftentimes we only hear from people when they're unhappy. And so the fact that I only hear positive things is really telling. So I'm here to support however we can and appreciate the update, and thank you. And please extend my thanks to your staff.
Director Nimmo?
I also just want to say thank you for doing what you're doing. It's a big deal. So thanks for all the effort you're putting in, and it's exciting to hear about the details.
Director Rafter?
Great, thanks, Dave. And I'm a big fan of the work that you guys do. Couple questions. Do you work at Bridges or Yampa?
No, we don't have a presence at Bridges or Yampa.
Would there be a desire to in the future of staff? I mean, it sounds like you're constrained by budget and resources anyway, but I'm just.
Yeah, so one of
curious.
those issues, just because of the model way we do it with the cohort-based system, we haven't had the ability to, the transient nature of both Bridges and Yampa has been difficult for us. What we have done in the past, though, if we have a student who starts in pre-collegiate and then transfers to Bridges or Yampa because of choice or need, we tend to try to work with the counselors there to just support them in any additional way we can informally, to make sure that that student is also feeling like they have that post-secondary pathway if they want to. It's the ad hoc nature of it can just make it tough for us to build a cohort around to do the kind of curriculum development that we do.
That makes a lot of sense. What was the change at CU? You alluded to it, but
Yeah,
it makes it harder to work.
CU is just going through a restructuring of their student support services team generally. We've been kind of bounced around through different departments of the University of Colorado for a while now with who we partner with and what the offices are that we're outreaching for. They've moved some of their first generation services out of admissions and put it in its own thing, and then they moved it back. And so I think they're just trying to figure out what the best fit is for that. And they are they've kind of been able to grow over the years with multiple different programs. And I think they're finding that that's leading to some siloing that they're trying to avoid. So I know they just hired a new director level assistant VP position there, whose job it is to kind of oversee this stuff. And we've been able to have some really productive conversations with them initially about the next step. So I think we'll be included in whatever the next step is for them. At least they're thinking about that. I just don't know what that looks like. If it's going to be less of a, what we call right now the Mountain Pre-Collegiate Program, which is us and Summit High School, and we share our summer program there at Boulder, or if they're going to put us into a larger kitty with other programs, and we have to kind of figure out what that looks like. So we're just sort of in a wait and see mode to see what that's going to look like next year.
So that impacts your summer programming for the students who are enrolled in pre-collegiate, but it doesn't necessarily impact their ability to get into CU.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
But one of the incentives we have with going to the Boulder program in the summer is the students actually apply to Boulder early at the summer program while we're there. It's the first college application that they do. And the admissions office has historically given some precedent to that for the programs that we're there with. So we're hoping to continue that momentum because we feel like that actually does lead to yields for Boulder for kids who get excited about wanting to go to CU.
Okay. Just a couple more questions on your slide about where class of 25 went. It looks like 2 kids went to the U.S. Army. Is that the sum total of all the military?
For last year, yes. I mean, historically, we've had at least 1 or 2 consider it either directly enrolling or enlisting or through an ROTC kind of program. And obviously, we don't have a preference for that. Like if a student wants to, what's fun. What we like about it is those students still went through the whole college application process and financial aid and scholarships so that they saw that college was a choice. And they're like, you know what, this just feels better for me. And I'm like, that's exactly what we want for our students is that they make that decision.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just one more question, and I think I've asked this before, so apologies. Are you a 501c3?
We're not.
Okay.
That's been that's been a little bit one of the issues we've had since we're a district-based program, and we're embedded within the district. We're under the same umbrella of finances of the district. So we rely on the Roaring Fork Schools Foundation as our 501c3 fiscal sponsor, but we're not directly, which does create some donor confusion when we go out to try to fundraise.
But you don't have a board.
We don't have a fiduciary board like a nonprofit board. So our advisory board has historically been made up of basically committed volunteers, ex-mentors, program partners, Stacy's on the board, things like that, who want to help us kind of guide some of these strategic pieces, but they don't have hiring and firing or fiduciary responsibility over the program.
Okay, so so you're on the org chart here at the district. You report up to the district sides. Okay, thanks, Dave.
Director Ramirez?
Thanks for the presentation. I was super interested to hear that you guys are working on a data dashboard. Can you share more information on that?
Yeah, so one of the things we were really looking at was trying to make sure both operationally and then sort of structurally that we are collecting the data that we feel like is both linked to showing the success of the program, which has been a really interesting conversation both among staff and some of the advisory board members about like, what do we measure success by? Is it pure numbers? Is it completion of college applications? Is it high school graduation? Is it all of the above? But we haven't had a really good way to start to track some of that year over year, except to be perfectly honest, through Google spreadsheets that just live in our Google Drive. And the goal is to try to make that a lot more sophisticated. We also have a secondary piece, which is the student data management side of things. So we use Infinite Campus, obviously, for a lot of our things, but we do a lot of intervention work with our students, especially our students who are potentially struggling with maintaining their status in the program. So we're looking at maybe using EduClimber or another software tool that the district already has to kind of track like what's our attrition rate and what's our average GPA at any given moment, what's our attendance issues looking like, some of those student data management pieces. So it's both the operational like outcomes driven data and then also sort of the day-to-day working with students kind of data. And we just don't have those tools at our toolbox. We've been doing it, but just very ad hoc.
Yeah. And will that include graduation rates after high school graduation?
Yeah, I think that's the hope, is that there's a part two. I have a spreadsheet, like I said, that we track anecdotally what we know about post-secondary completion. We always get asked that, how do they do when they leave here? The data we have is really promising. We do have data holes because we don't have tracking abilities for all the students that leave us, but like historically, we have about a 98% college matriculation rate out of the program and about an 84% college completion rate, which is really great. So what we're really trying to do is say, like, can we even refine that further to understand is what's 2-year versus 4-year, in-state versus out-of-state, all the ways you can slice it. It's a big lift though. And I think there's definitely a lot of data out there and a lot of data gathering that can be challenging. So that's sort of, I think, part 2 of our data window.
And I was just reviewing your implementation overview. So that goal is set for the 26-27 school year. Do you think you guys will meet that?
We're certainly going to have identified all of the metrics we'd like to track and start to figure out what tools, what's sort of the low-hanging fruit classically of what can we just plug into existing, school software and databases that we can use. We've been talking about, for example, building out some things in Infinite Campus that allow us to just check a box to say whether FAFSA completion has occurred or something like that. So then we can just run a report. So I think we'll have some steps towards those kinds of, especially I think the outcomes-based data by the end of this school year. I think some of the bigger ones around things we would like to be able to see, but maybe don't have in a clear way. It's probably going to take another year or so.
Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks again for coming. I had a couple of quick questions. Could you talk a little bit about your recruitment process in the middle school and how that starts?
Sure. So during 7th grade is when we do our recruitment cycle. We have a dedicated middle school coordinator and we actually just wrapped up our 7th grade recruitment process. We haven't finished the onboarding yet. We waited till first trimester was complete because we want to see first trimester grades before we make the final decision about onboarding. But each middle school does it a little bit differently, but generally speaking, we try to push into every school, make sure that the students are getting some kind of take-home piece of paper, that they stuff in their backpack, crimple up, and then parents don't ever see. But then we also put it in the school newsletters, announcements, things like that. This year we changed it a little bit, and what we did was we had students come if they were interested to sort of see what a pre-collegiate meeting feels like. And then if they liked it, we set a application date for about a week later. They would come at lunch and literally sit down and fill out the application. One of our goals with matriculation is finding people who are motivated to be in the program. And we feel like a 7th grader who's willing to give up part of their lunch to fill out a form is pretty motivated. So like that's a big plus for us if they're just willing to come and sit down and type on the computer to fill out the application. Like I said, it's open to anyone. Then we do some vetting process on the back ends. We do ask for letters of recommendation from teachers. We check with counselors and admin staff if there's any issues with attendance or behavior that we see in IC. And then, like I said, we're really trying to look for those students who want to be a part of the program. So we're being a little bit more selective at the front end. If we have students who, we never reject a student in 7th grade, that we will put them on a wait list if we feel like they're not quite ready for admissions yet. We don't want to send the message of, this isn't for you. We would just want to say, here's the things we need to see from you in order to be considered, and maybe next semester, maybe next year, but we want you to continue to still be interested, assuming you meet the criteria.
And how many students come off the wait list to join the program usually?
Usually, like I said, usually by the time we're in 10th grade, we're full. So it can be a slower process. We also like to keep some capacity because we don't serve all the K-8 schools. So we do get a lot of students who come to our buildings for the first time in 9th grade, and we want to reserve some capacity for those students. We also know that students come to, the awareness of their needs for wanting to do something after high school at different points. Mm-hmm. The only thing is we've made a decision as a team right now in light of the summer programs that we don't take any second semester juniors or beyond. So we don't admit seniors and we don't admit second semester juniors. It's our point is it's kind of too late for the way our curriculum works to really get the full experience of the program. But if you missed it in 7th grade, that does not mean that's a one and done kind of thing. So we do rely a lot on the sort of more ad hoc. A counselor will recommend, a teacher will recommend. Pre-collegiate students are all flagged in IC as pre-collegiate, so the staff and counselors know, and obviously admin and the teachers are great referral sources for us.
I think you kind of answered this question, but I was going to ask about your involvement with our charter schools in the community, but you were saying holding capacity in high school, yeah. I guess is part of it is that. So the 2 district charters, so CCS and Two Rivers, we do at the end of 8th grade, we push into both of those schools and say, there's this program, depending on where you're ending up going to high school. If it's one of our district high schools, if you're interested in applying, we can talk more about it. We don't have a curricular based presence there. We tried at Two Rivers and it was kind of fits and starts, to be perfectly honest. So when we were talking to Jamie or somebody about again, identifying those students who might fit, the thing about Two Rivers we'll see is, some students go to Coleridge, some students go to Glenwood, and it's kind of up in the air. And so we do want to make sure that we're letting them know that the program exists mm-hmm. and that they can enter and start at 9th grade at Glenwood Springs High School, for example. We do get a handful of students from time to time from Ross or Waldorf or places like that, but it's definitely usually once they're in 9th grade, and then they sort of get identified by a counselor or teacher as somebody who's first generation and interested in college. And then we'll go through a normal recruitment process with them. Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Directors, we will now have 5 minutes for open discussion.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, guys. Good to see you as always. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. Happy to talk anytime.
Thank you. At this time, we welcome members of the public who have signed up to address the board. There are 2 speakers signed up tonight. The board allots 45 minutes for public comment. To respect the time of all who are present, speakers are to limit their remarks to 3 minutes or less. Reminder to all speakers to uphold our procedures for public comment. We ask you to be thoughtful and constructive with your comments, and thank you in advance for sharing your feedback. Members of the public who wish to share their views with the board may always do so in writing at any time. For this evening's public comment, we received 0 written comments. Our first speaker is John Eaton.
My name is John Eaton. I've been in the Valley for 40 some years and had 3 very successful kids go through Basalt High School. And I coached the high school soccer team for 4 years down there. And I'm the person who's been replacing all the political yard signs that have been stolen by the liberal left. And I've been doing it for about 15, 20 years because I know that the liberals are going to steal our signs, and basically the conservative signs do not get stolen. There might be one or two, but I've replaced about 50 or 60 this year. So we know that our second grade teacher is now under investigation for election interference and destroying evidence. And I will say this, that when Elizabeth Taylor put on the air tags, I got to, she signed me up for it, and I was able to watch the air tags go from the Salt Middle School teacher's parking lot up to her house up in Elk Springs. And then I got to watch the air tags go from the Elk Springs down to the Thunder River dumpster. And so that was interesting too. And we had a video of that. So we know that the left-wing political agenda people, they lie, they cheat, and they steal. Really, our objective here is to teach our children about good character. We have always stopped, we have to stop grooming our kids for political agenda. Right now, we, meaning the teachers union, is teaching and modeling that the end justifies the means. Did I mention that the second grade teacher in question was the former head of the teachers union? Back to the end that justifies the means. I have a nephew in Illinois that is a sixth grade history teacher, and he recently posted on Facebook that Charlie Kirk didn't deserve a safe place to speak. My nephew is another product of the evil teachers union, wonderfully brainwashed into thinking that he and his voice is the only one that matters. And it's wonderfully moronic. Here's what I coached. Actually, I'll skip that since I don't have time. I asked the police officers that these things would attract pedophiles, these policies, and they said absolutely. Our conservative state house members put forth 3 bills in the last few years proposing that mandatory sentences for pedophiles be put into law. And all 3 bills, not one Democrat voted to have this. So I believe that all the Democrats there are either pedophiles or being paid by pedophiles. So by having these programs, we are really grooming our kids to be abused. The House and Senate also passed a law that prohibited psychiatrists and counselors from going against the gender change law, and they can lose their license. The left thought these programs would be clearly. Then I got one more paragraph that they are not. They're not going to be helpful. They need to be changed completely. You are not for the kids. You are for a political agenda.
Thank you. Tanner Giannetti?
Hello, everybody, once more. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tanner Giannetti. I had come to speak again tonight. And I plan to recite another recital, speaking to this Understanding Our Bodies curriculum that's currently in the district. And I've since changed the mind, and there's no sense in reciting it again. The packet that I just handed to you was the email I sent you around 1 p.m. this afternoon, citing all the background, due diligence, and stakeholdership that I've gone through in the last 3 weeks, really dedicating time to this subject and addressing it. And therefore, I really just want to stick to the elephant in the room on this curriculum is inappropriate for elementary grade school kids. We are superseding the state's restrictions on when the sexual and health education is being taught. You all, as board members, have the power to rescind this specific curriculum until you guys can look into it and actually do your due diligence with the stakeholders in this community. It is alarming that the district's protocol for distributing this method, this new curriculum as a one-size-fit-all approach that was treated like a skiing waiver. The whole point to the parental rights is that they're giving the consent for this curriculum. It's alarming how many parents don't even understand what this is. Over 50 I've spoken with. And yes, this does pertain mainly to Carbondale, but only 2 even read it. And when I told them about the subject matter, the verbiage, the lesson plan, the teacher's resources, they were appalled. But what was more alarming is that these parents were reluctant to speak on the issue because of the political stance it presented and because of their reputation or their job security. Even more so, of the staff I've spoken with, they were scared to take a stance against the district because of their job or their housing. It would be jeopardized. That should be alarming. I received electronic notice buried in a newsletter accommodated with the PE schedule, cafeteria, and monthly happenings, and a hyperlink. The physical copy was distributed in my son's ABC and Crayon take-home folder. No staff member brought this curriculum directly to my attention and said, Tanner, you really need to read this. If that's the county, if this is the district's protocol, well, was it designed so it'd go through unseen? If that many parents at one institution aren't notified and are oblivious to this matter, what does that say to the district? I'm praying God to think about this and rescind it. Take time to take the stakeholder feedback and actually ask the district what's important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. Let's see some.
The next business in order is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes routine personnel, minutes for our previous board meeting, policies EBAB, ECF, IKFA, regulation JICEA-R, repeal of policy EBBD, and approval of a progressive design build contract under 100,000 per policy DJA for CMS HVAC upgrades. Directors, are there any items that you would like to pull off the consent agenda for a separate discussion or vote? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Call the vote?
Director Actor,
Aye.
Director DeFreitas.
Aye.
Director Kuhlenberg.
Aye.
Director Long.
Aye.
Director Ramirez.
Hi.
All right, the next business in order is discussion on the first quarter financial statements. Chief Chacoin will briefly cover some content related to this topic before the board begins their discussion. Did I skip something? Oh, okay, great. And just so that folks know, we did have a deep dive work session on quite a bit of this already. But a little more is good.
Sorry, Madam Chair. We generally don't allow interruption during our board meeting, and so I'm just I waiting for clarification on that, because that's generally we stop for a second before we keep going. I feel like I'm very distracted in this moment.
I
trying
apologize.
Right, go ahead.
No, thank you for the point of order. I appreciate that. Chief Chacoin?
Okay. Thank you. Let me just look at the agenda, see which one I'm on first. Apologies. Okay. It would be really great if I could. Let's see here.
see here. So the first one I have here is first quarter financial statements. Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. So there's a couple things that I want to note on the first quarter financial statements is that we had reviewed this in about an hour long session before this with the board, but I think there's a couple really important points to just bring up in this meeting. First of all, is that we are committed in the finance department to assure that the board is receiving quarterly board reports regularly and timely. And this is the culmination of those. Despite some turnover in our department, we're one board meeting behind, but we're still fairly on target with when we would usually get these numbers to the board. And so I'm grateful for the staff for all their work on this. And then we should be having the second quarter reports in February. So that's when we're planning to have those ready for the board in accordance with state statute. There's not too much that I'm going to review here in detail, except for to state that our executive summary last year compared to this year is a really big change. We have not had any major needed adjustments to the budget, especially for expenditures. We're going to talk a little bit about 25-26 and the supplemental budget, looking at a future agenda item in this meeting. But there's really nothing of note that we anticipate at this point in time as far as additional costs for 25-26. And we still have that available above minimum fund balance of 2.7 million at this time for our general fund. We have, if you keep going, for the other funds, there's an executive summary that I just want to note really super quick. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. So what I do as far as the executive funds, the other funds, is I add an executive summary in there with anything that's changed between now and when we did our original budget. So there's not much of note here, which is really good news also, that no news is good news on the finance side. And there's just a couple notes with the technology mill fund that we're going to need to look at. We're reducing our fund balance this year. We're going to need to look at our expenditures pretty closely in that fund for 26-27. Looking at the insurance reserve fund, there's a change in billing there. So that's really not anything of substance. When you look at the difference between the years and early childhood, we're talking in our supplemental budget about some of the concerns around federal funding a little bit later, and everything else is on track. We've closed out our health insurance fund, which was the self-insurance fund. Any questions on the quarterlies?
Do we want to do 2 minutes on quarterlies? Or do we feel like we can keep going?
I don't know.
Thanks. I think you answered a lot of our questions already.
Okay, you're welcome. No worries. Okay, so then we're going to go into the next agenda item, which is the high-level review of revenues. And I'm going to go right to the staff memo. If we could pull that up, please. That would be really awesome. And there's just a few items of note there. Super. Just make that a little bit bigger for folks. Yeah. So the one thing that I'm going to note, especially, this is a really important benchmark for the year. This really starts and kicks off our budget process for 26-27. The really important part of me providing a revenue estimate at this point in time is to assure that all the district's constituents and the board and the IBB and everybody understand what's going on with our revenue. What we've anticipated here is based upon a best and worst case scenario. We have a lot of things going on our state level, as everybody here probably understands, where we have an $850 to $1 billion deficit still in our state budget. And we also have some changes potentially to our federal revenue as well. So what we did is we, meaning Anna and myself, had consulted with Tracy Rainey from the Colorado School Finance Project. She's an expert in this area to look at where we should start our budgeting. We don't want to wait until we have definitive news from our legislature because we're still going through all of our budgetary processes and we want to have better information than that. So we are looking at a best and worst case scenario on our budget as our potential outcomes for this year. And these numbers are based upon our worst case scenario. Okay, just in summary, we did go and review this in a lot of detail in the previous board session. But the one thing I'm going to say is the worst case scenario is specific to our total program funding. There's two things that are looking at potentially happening in our total program funding for 26-27. The first thing, which is the most impactful to the district, is the mill levy override funding, which is our local funding for licensing fees from locally passed measures such as our bonds and mill levy overrides that have historically gone for additional revenue for the district. The state is now recommending to put those into our funding formula. So unfortunately, that really does mean a cut to the district. It's not going to show that way in the funding formula, but it's taking money that we've been receiving historically and the state's using it to backfill so that they don't have to pay as much in for our per pupil revenue. And so that's unfortunately what's happening. And that's 1.7 million to the district for next year. That's a very significant cut. And I would say that this is unprecedented, this type of a move from the state legislature that has been here. I have been in school funding. School finance, geez, I have to see maybe 22, 23 years. And that funding has been there as long as I've been in my roles. So for them to take this away at this moment is a huge change, a huge impact. The second thing that is impacting our total program funding is looking at the averaging for enrollment. So we historically in the funding formula with the state have had a 5-year averaging, meaning that when we have a declining enrollment, we have 5 years to adjust to that. So back in 25-26, they moved it to 4 years. Now they were going to move it to 3 years in this initial request from the governors. But now they have this smoothing factor they're talking about to look at their budget and trying to shore up their own budget. And so now we're moving that up to 2 years. Okay. So there are some additional cuts that we're putting in here. On top of that, I'm going to go back. If you go down, or actually, let me see. If you could go to the numbers themselves instead of the staff memo, and then I'm just going to go through the numbers in the actual financial. Just really quickly. I just wanted to emphasize that $1.7 million cut. That's the big thing. But we've got a couple of other issues in our budget for next year too. So thank you so much, Jonathan. If you go towards the top of that page, thank you. And just, there you go. So then the total program funding is 71,090,000 in the original budget, which is what we use as our benchmark. And then for our current budget for 26-27 that we are estimating based on, it's 71.5 million. So we've got a little bit of an increase despite some declines in enrollment that we'll go through a little bit later. So then if you look at the override mill levy that's a slight increase year over year. Specific ownership tax other goes from 1,638,418 to 0. So that's where that huge cut is. And so then I'm just going to skip all the way down to the total revenues right there. Okay, so that
number for our original budget goes from 96.3 million to 95.3 million, meaning that we're losing $1 million total in our budget net of all the changes in our budget for 26-27 expected. On top of that, we've got additional allocations that we have to provide to other funds based upon contracts, state statutes, and other things and other commitments the district has. The ones that are the largest are the allocation of charter school, because there are an increase in the number of charter school students. And then also because we're declining enrollment, we are required to provide an additional percentage of our mill levy override to those charter schools. So that number goes from 8.3 million up to $8.8 million transfer. Another one that is changing pretty significantly is the transfer to designated purpose fund of moving from 800,000 up to 1,276,000, because the 800,000 number from 25-26 was actually a reduction, a one-time reduction for FRC positions. That was filling a budget gap at a budget hole. We knew we were going to have to resolve for that for 26-27. And so we have to put that additional funding back in to our grant fund transfer from the general fund for next year. We also have to look at our food service fund, which is increasing potentially from $200,000 to $400,000 transfer, more to come on that. So when we look at all of our transfers out and look at our net revenue difference, we're looking at a $2.2 million reduction in the budgeting from 25-26 to 26-27. So just wanted to give you that overall picture in our funding. I'll make one additional note and then we can go to questions. If you go, Jonathan, to the next page, thank you. Okay, so then if you look at the original budget versus the estimated actual on the student count, there's 5,561.5 that we actually budgeted for 25-26. We came in at 5,412. So we actually over budgeted our student count, even though we still had a decline by 149.5 students. We have to also take into account additional declines in student count for 26-27. So that cumulative total and decline in students between budget years is 275 students. So there is a huge impact because from that decline on our budget as well. So is there any questions?
Directors now have 2 minutes. Let's start with Director After.
Great, thanks for this overview and for the deep dive in our public work session earlier. Just a couple more follow-up questions. I understand that the 7A Child Care Coalition is, correct me if I'm wrong, already collecting on the sales tax that was approved by voters in November. When are we going to start seeing revenue from that? And how much do you think is going to, how much is that going to cover future early child care expenses for us?
I'm going to defer to Anna.
I think it's a lot to be determined. And I would open in case Director Kuhlenberg has any additional concrete information, because I know you've attended some meetings, but from what I can tell, they're still building the plans and the programs. And so we really can't anticipate in our budget right now any support. We are definitely, as a school district, working with the Aspen and Parachute school districts for outreach and aligning some education materials to share with the elected board and inviting them to visit our schools and learn about school district early childhood programs. But we're really in the relationship building education stage. But I don't know if Director Kuhlenberg, you have anything else to add there?
No, I mean, they are collecting tax starting January 1. They'll begin getting that tax in March, which is ahead of schedule. They had originally thought it'd be at the end of June, like July 1 would be when they would get dollars, but they haven't hired staff. They don't have any plans in place for disbursement. All they have right now is really the service plan, but no plans for disbursement. So it's going to take some time.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'd be curious to stay in touch or just stay on top of that, because I mean, if they're collecting sales tax from us every day, then I would like to be able to see that get out into the early childhood marketplace as soon as possible, especially so that we can plan for next fiscal year around that.
I do think as electeds for this board, we all have a role to play in communicating with them and ensuring that we support in them being successful as they launch and understanding the urgency that we need and that I think most providers and families need and expect around this.
Is the funding going to providers or is it going to families? Or you don't know?
To be determined. I
Okay.
mean, like you said, they haven't hired any staff yet and it could do both under the service plan.
Okay. Sorry to put you on the spot. It sounds like it seems like you're taking a pessimistic view of the specific ownership tax. You think it's gonna get rolled in, which it might be, that might make sense. And also I feel like, I don't feel like it's a done deal. I don't know, what's your assessment?
That's a really great question. It is not a done deal. The governor, however, did put that into their budget request, to cut for 27-28. So that in essence, regardless of the timing of that, if that is cut, that turns into one-time funding, even if we get it. So it's definitely something that is going to be a hot topic during our budget process for this year. I would definitely encourage people that are concerned about that to reach out to their legislators, to talk. Right now is the time because nothing has been finalized, but the governor putting that into their revised request and plus almost $1 billion shortfall at the state tells me that I better be a little pessimistic.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Where does your optimism, pessimism lie on releasing the CCAP funding for early childhood that the president has frozen?
I would say that, I mean, I'm excited that we did get, or I heard we got another funding amount in for another month. And so I know that's held up in some court, and some legal challenges. And so right now I'm optimistic about receiving those funds, but I am still hedging our bet on the supplemental budget by that 200,000, just in case there is another surprise where all of a sudden, oh, actually, this is something that is going to be cut this year and we have to pivot very quickly so that we can make sure we have that good communication with our staff and our families, that people aren't impacted immediately. That's what we're really hoping to do is to at least try to create a soft landing.
Okay.
If that does happen.
Thanks. Excuse me. One more question on the, this year, it looks like we're getting 2.2 million. We budgeted 2.2 million to get from specific ownership taxes.
Oh, that's a really great question. Well, I don't have it up, but
Okay, you're saying we're gonna, what we would lose if that went away is 1.7. So where's the 500K difference between what we're getting this year and what you think we will lose if it goes away next year?
so there's, this would be the mill levy override other line item. It's the second line item underneath, the mill levy override funds. I have this memorized. And then what that looks like is 1,638,000 on the budget. And so then when I look and project this year, what we think we're going to get in, it'll probably be close to 1.7 million if things track through the rest of the year as they have been, which is of course to be seen. And if there's a recession that happens, those numbers can change. But right now I'm looking and tracking at 1.7 million. But if you look at that second line item under other local sources of specific ownership tax, other 1,638,000, that's where that number comes from, a 1.7 million. So
I was looking at specific ownership taxes general.
General, and that's always been in the formula because that specific ownership tax is specifically related to the total program funding mill levy. So that makes sense because it's aligned to that. But these are more local measures, and that's why this is I see this somewhat of an unprecedented move by the state.
Because it's local, it's local funding that locals taxing entities collect, and the state's gonna potentially take it away.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, I'm done.
Yeah.
Director Ramirez?
Thank you so much for answering our questions during the work session. I so appreciate having you on the team and knowing that you're taking that pessimistic view to prep us for whatever we need to be prepared for. And that is really helpful, especially in this role. So thank you so much for that.
Director Kuhlenberg?
Yeah, I appreciate the time in the work session. And I'm grateful for having the pessimistic view. I know that no one has a crystal ball, but I feel like every year at this time, we are in this very pessimistic place. And there are typically some shifts from the legislatures. So we know about the specific ownership tax. Is there anything else that we can be advocating for in the state finance formula as it's currently proposed? Any specific shifts that they're proposing, things that are going to impact us, obviously in lesser ways than the specific ownership tax, but anything else that you would flag for us?
That's a super great question. I think that the second most impactful thing that is happening is this reduction in the averaging years, going from 4 years to 3 years. I mean, looking at 3 years to 2 years, that's a $375,000 cut right there to our district. And so, and then really, I don't have a lot of additional information around that smoothing factor or what that could look like. And just to try to avoid further cuts to education, that's what we're trying to avoid.
Yeah.
And those are the two areas, the main areas that I've seen that they're really focusing on right now.
Okay, thank you.
Director Nimmo?
Just also want to say thanks. It feels really good to have you at the helm of all of this. And yeah, I have a lot to learn about budget, but I'm going to dive in. Go do that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, on that note, I asked this question in work session, but if you could just kind of put it on public record, tell us where we are in this process as a board and what the timeline is for us to make a final decision, because as a board, one of our biggest levers is to look at the budget and act on behalf of the community, make sure it's transparent. And I know that my colleagues on the board who've been here longer than I have worked a long time to kind of set up this timeline. So if you could just kind of name that for us and let us know where we're going, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Director DeFreitas. That's a really great framing question as far as the timelines there around the budget and how long this process usually takes. So the budget process, we start with our goal setting and even before now. So there's a lot of goals and a lot of conversation that is already taking place and goal setting and things like that. But this really starts to look at where the rubber meets the road on the revenue side. And then it culminates towards the end of May, actually, is when we provide the board a full picture of what the budget recommendation is looking like. And then the board has 2 readings between the end of May and the 1st of June to get that passed and approved. That's the way we usually do it. We have all the way through June 30 to actually pass it, but because of the summer timelines and things like that, we're trying to move that so that it's not an inconvenience for anybody and people are still available and here and a part of that process.
And our General Assembly in Colorado's State House can go all the way up to mid-May with these decisions, sometimes before they adjourn.
I believe so. I don't know the rules around if they can extend some of that.
Don't even say that.
But I don't know. I've seen very interesting scenarios and predicaments. So, but yes, that's the problem is we're having to plan and to negotiate based upon things we're not really clear on yet. And we keep on getting a clearer and clearer picture as we move forward. It's almost like wearing glasses and then you're kind of just getting the fog out of them slowly. And so then all of a sudden you get a clear picture. But by then you would have already had to do all your planning and all of your salary and benefit negotiation and things like that. So that's why we start off on a pessimistic note.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And then just one more thing on the special ownership tax. It interacts more heavily with districts who have set up their own local funding through mill levy overrides and bonds, correct? Could you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yes, that's absolutely correct. Because the way so this happens actually at the the county levels is that all of the mill levies for all of the municipal governments and school districts in that county are tallied. And then by each one of the organizations, there's a percentage that each one of those particular mill levies that were passed by voters get. Okay. And so then as we pass additional mill levy overrides, then we would receive a higher percentage of that total licensing fee at the county level. And that's generally how that works.
Thanks. I love that it's hitting areas that have worked hard to set up their own local funding harder than those that have not been able to. That's a tricky spot to be in. And I expect the board will be advocating specifically for that more in the coming weeks. That's all I have. We have 5 minutes for open discussion now. Seeing no further discussion, we can move on. Thank you so much, Chief Coyne. Appreciate it. Wait, we have action items. Is that still your? Oh, okay, great. Great, then it's on us. Board goals is what we're talking about right now. The next business in order is the discussion of board goals for 25-26. And some content related to this topic will be briefly presented before the board begins their discussion. So I included a memo, if we could pull it up on the screen just with the list, and I'll give a brief overview, having to read off the screen because I'm struggling to get that document up. So the board goals are their commitment within the board of directors that we've agreed to, where we recognize that we have a unique role. We are not operational staff. We are not community members. We have governance and policy procedures to adhere to. We hire and fire the superintendent. We look at budgets and we take care of all of those things. And it's a huge responsibility. And it's one that I've had to continue to grow in. And it's a tremendous amount of information and processing. And a lot of the success that we have right now as a board is because of some very transparent and replicable processes that previous board members who are sitting on either side of me right now have put together to keep us accountable and to keep us growing. And so the board goals are something new this year that has been discussed mostly November, December, and we're just bringing it forward now due to scheduling issues. So I'm going to just kind of look at what those are and make a brief connection to how they play into our strategic plan. But I'm going to move quickly and then turn it over to the other directors for comments. So the first goal is to develop a policy and procedure to introduce and institutionalize student board members on the Roaring Fork School District Board of Education over the next 2 years, although the timeline will have to be reflective of a few things. So that's a bit of an estimate. And although all board members are committed to these goals, we kind of put folks on lead to make sure things keep moving forward. So I'm supporting Director Kuhlenberg in that student board member work, and I'll let her speak more to that in a minute. Develop more robust promotion of the District Accountability Committee and ensure meaningful and timely contributions to board decision-making. The District Accountability Committee is an important part of the transparency of our district and our answering to the community. It's required by state statute, and it's, in the relative scheme of things, somewhat new. And we want to make sure that the timing of that input from community members is appropriate and that those folks who are devoting their time to it are heard and accounted for in our decision-making process. So our strategic plan initiative for student board members goes under student first, and this one is operational excellence. Next up, we have draft and approve district policies to ensure the continued implementation of policy and finance committees. Again, this is making sure that we maintain transparency, that our policies are accurate and up to date, and that our finance committee has access to the financials in a timely fashion so that we can keep things moving forward. And that'll be led by Director Ramirez and Director Kuhlenberg, accounting for operational excellence, financial excellence, and there's a bunch of other initiatives that plays into as well. Then develop and structure support for continued professional development for the superintendent. This is being led by myself and Director Kuhlenberg, and this falls under the strategic initiative of Thriving Team. The job of the superintendent is dynamic and challenging at all times, and day-to-day work can definitely take precedence over continued growth, but we as a board believe that those skills and that professional development is essential to succeed in the long term in leadership in this district. And then refine the superintendent evaluation process led by Director After and Director Ramirez, again, supporting the strategic initiative of Thriving Team. And finally, draft and approve a policy codifying the annual election of board officers led by Director Ramirez and Kuhlenberg under operational excellence. And some excellent reasoning behind this is after elections of new directors, the first meeting that you show up on, you're being told to vote for someone to lead the board and you don't know who they are yet. And so one of the suggestions is to find a time later in the year that's appropriate every year to revisit how that process is going. So I'd love to open it up to my fellow board members, 2 minutes of comment, and let's begin with Director Nimmo. I was going to put you on the spot.
I know.
Tonight.
Is it appropriate just to talk about the one that I'm aware of?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
Okay. Just that I'm happy to be a part of the District Accountability Committee. It's something that works well with, my strengths, I really enjoyed the meeting that we were at. I feel like Jasmine and I were really clear with them that we are here to help. We are here to recruit. We are here to, make sure that they do thrive. I was able to send 4 potential new board members their way. I don't know how that will, what will come of all of that. But yeah, that's that.
Director Ramirez?
I guess I would just add, these are pretty open, like Director DeFreitas mentioned, we've been sort of refining these goals in starting November, December. And just in conversation, I think thinking through some of the upcoming policy work, including the update on the finance language policies. I think there's still conversation to be had on that work as well, and potentially adding that to this board goals. But I'm really glad that we're finally bringing this forward as a team so that the community knows what we are working on. And so there is some accountability on our end as board members on, being a working board and being able to commit and see through some of these projects. So I look forward to the work. I think this is important that the board understands goal setting and also the commitment of pushing the district forward. And so I appreciate the opportunity for us to define an initial starting point for the board.
Director Kuhlenberg?
Yeah, I'm grateful that we brought this forward publicly. I think this is something that since I first got on the board, I wanted to push us towards. And this is one of those systemic changes that I think have real impact. So I'm grateful to see this on the agenda and be able to discuss this in open session. As Director Ramirez said, it's really to hold us accountable to community. I wish there were reporters sitting here that would report on these goals so that people could come to us and say, hey, how'd you do on those goals? Because as time flies by, unless you're intentional. So I'm really happy that we're moving forward with student board members. Happy to give updates on that. I have a draft policy done. We've had some conversations about the best way to move that forward, but want to do it thoughtfully and slowly to ensure we get it right. I also noticed that my name is on 4 of 6 of these.
Yeah, but that happened.
I'm happy to take on the work, but if anybody wants to step in on any of them, feel free to let me know. The updating district policies, I've pulled most of those, and I think those are really easy language edits. So some of these are easy gets, some of them are going to be harder, and I'm happy that we're all in agreement and ready to move forward and get some of this stuff done because it's too easy to let these goals fall out of sight when we're faced with the barrage of all of the other things that come at us on a day-to-day basis.
Director After?
Yeah, these look good. I'm only on one. Happy to put my name on others if that lightens the load for especially you two officers. So let me know. These look good. Yay.
Well, I mean, we have a minute here. If we want to move names around, we can just kind of discuss too. I might have erred on summarizing where the names were. So if you flag something that is.
No, I think you are correct. I mean, I think the policy updates, we did put our names on because I had already pulled them when we were at CASB. I had highlighted language in number 6, so it looks like Jasmine updated that language
Okay.
to reflect an additional election just following a
Yeah.
November election year. Not
Okay.
every year changing officers.
Okay.
I would argue that we shouldn't do that because I think changing every single year is going to be hard on our superintendent. I think having like a June or end of school year election post general election makes sense so that new board members do have that 6 months to get their feet under them and reaffirm choices or shake things up, whatever the board decides. But I know from other boards that have gone down the annual election path that can be very chaotic.
That makes sense.
I just wanted to add, I think, you know, the beauty about these board goals again is that they're very flexible. So if there are other committees that we see something a need here to bring forth, I'm thinking about your committee, Betsy, the BOCES. You know, if there's something as relates, I think we should add it to this set of goals. I think, you know, the policies, obviously, it's something that we've been doing for so long that it seems like an easy enough lift for us. But I do think it would be really important for us to continue to have conversation. One policy that I didn't see on here is the professional development for the board. I see professional development for the superintendent. So if Director After would want to tag team with me on that, I think that's fine. I think, yeah, there are a lot of policies that we're working on that we've talked about during our board meetings that it would be good to add on here.
You want to add a 7th goal?
Well, I mean, if you look at it though, like some of these are gonna get done pretty quickly. So
I don't think we
I
necessarily.
don't know that I'm the person to represent professional development from the board, So happy to pinch hit if I need to, but that's not an area that I've shown particular strength in.
well, that's fine. I was just saying, I mean, if there's I think that putting professional development for the board is a conversation that we had as a team. I think that is something that we brought up. I submitted a tracker request for that, so I'm happy to take any help or no help on that. I think it was something that I did see on here. I did see the PD for the superintendent. I didn't see that for the board.
I think when we spoke about it last time, we discussed that it was contained in board norms, but it's a good flag that we need to do better. I don't know that adding it to the board goals this year would be a change because we'd be saying add it to the norms, or are you saying create a policy for it?
Well, no, so I'm creating a policy for it. So, I mean, that's fine. If we don't, as a team, feel like that's a board goal, that's fine. You know, on the codifying the election, like that's something we already worked on. So again,
Yeah, I could
start
out with you tapping on that one. That makes it easier for you.
no, but that's what I'm saying. It's already done.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think adding an extra goal is bad because there are some of these that we've already accomplished.
I just don't think this is the right point in time to add an additional goal because we've already had multiple conversations about these goals. And if we get additional things done, great. Or if we have personal goals and we want to tackle additional items, I think that's fine. But when we're talking about our board forward facing goals, I don't think that we have the time right now to draft additional ones or have discussion on additional items that aren't on this list.
But it might be a good flag with the norms already established to find some time on a work session to check in on board professional development for this year and see where we're at and what we need.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
gone
well,
through the board
that's
tracker
gonna-
already, so it's already kind of in the hopper.
Perfect. Yep.
I think what I was referring to is if there are board members who feel like they could do more or would like to do more, then I wouldn't be opposed as a board member that they add an additional goal that they would like to see accomplished.
I'm good.
I definitely plan to do a lot of professional development this year. I just got signed up for school board partners and I'm gonna, if anybody has recommendations on any classes, whether they're semesters long or just a weekend or anything, I would love as much of that, coming my way as possible. I need to do more with finance, budget. Yeah,
Maybe we can find a budget class to suffer through together.
I would love that.
Any other thoughts on this?
Let's get it done.
All right. Okay. We will have a quick check-in and work session in mid-April to see how close we are to the end of these and then kind of go from there, how we feel. All right, so that brings us to action items. The next business in order is approval of the amended 25-26 budget. We're going to take a motion first, then have discussion. So do I have a motion to approve the amended 25-26 budget?
I move that the board approve the amended 25-26 budget as presented.
Second?
Second.
Second. We will now have 2 minutes discussion for each board member and 5 minutes of open discussion unless Chief Chacoin, you wanted to open with any other comments on that. We've covered it in public
no.
session and had a work
Yeah, we've
session.
already reviewed it in the session and there wasn't any significant change from the first reading.
Okay. Then let's start with Director Ramirez. Did you have any questions, comments?
No questions. Thank you. Again, I think it's really important for anybody who wants to know about our district finances, to please review today's agenda. I think it's also really important to stress how incredibly important it is for us to have the opportunity as a board to work with the budget and learn about the budget on the front end and to be able to get so much detail in layman's terms, which is really important. It feels really weird to like be like, oh, this is so easy now. But we really appreciate all the work and the dedication going through to make sure that the board is coming alongside with you on the conversation on the district budget and monies and all of the things that are happening. We really appreciate that work. Thank you.
Director Nimmo?
What she said. Thanks so much. I don't have questions right now.
Director After?
No questions. Thank you.
Director Kuhlenberg?
Nothing further from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all your work on this and just highlighting something you mentioned in work session, which was great. It is that timely financials allow us to make decisions with our eyes wide open. And I appreciate that we have that opportunity this year. Great. Are there any intervening motions to amend? Seeing none, could you call the vote?
Director After,
Aye.
Director DeFreitas,
Aye.
Director Kuhlenberg, Director
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
The next business in order is the approval of a resolution for use of the beginning fund balance. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution for the use of the beginning fund balance?
I move that the board approve the resolution for the use of the beginning fund balance as presented.
I second. We'll now have 2 minutes of discussion for each board member, and then 5 minutes of open discussion. Director Kuhlenberg.
I don't have anything on this. I appreciated the time in work session. And I'm grateful that we are meeting this requirement and ensuring that we will stay on the right track financially.
Thank you. Director After?
No questions. Thank you.
Director Ramirez?
Thanks again.
Director Nemo?
No questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Are there any intervening motions to amend? Call the vote.
Director After,
Aye.
Director DeFreitas,
Aye.
Director Kuhlenberg,
Aye.
Director
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
All right, the next business in order is a proposal for a new resolution requesting flags representing all students in every school. Director Nimmo will now present her proposal and share her thoughts.
This all came from a conversation I was having once with Catherine as I was getting to understand the differences between the schools in our district. Oh, was that okay?
Yeah. I didn't know this was from a conversation with.
Well, you had, I think when I was campaigning even, I talked about how when I lived overseas and started school, one of my favorite things about going to school was we'd run in at the beginning of the week and put our lunch boxes and coats down and stuff, and then we'd run back out and then we'd stand in a circle around a flagpole that had flags from all the countries represented by the students there. And all the Germans said their Pledge of Allegiance and all the Australians theirs. And I got to say the American one, and the natives, the locals got to do theirs. And I mean, I'm old now, and that is still like a significant memory in of mine. Director Kuhlenberg mentioned that Basalt schools have flags representing many different countries, I'm assuming.
Elementary does, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
it was just something I was like, oh, well, I would love to make that happen in all the schools, to have the students from different countries, they know that they're different, they know that this is not where they are from, but it is where they are now. And it seems like in this world of gray and, ups and downs, it's just one thing that seems very solid that we might be able to do to just support our students, which is what I campaigned on, just however I can support the students. Of course, this is something I would love to say, okay, do I have permission? Can I just go do it? So knowing that that is not how this works, I just wanted to throw it out there as something that I'm interested in having done. I'm not in a rush. Thanks for listening.
Director Kuhlenberg, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would be generally supportive if school leaders were supportive and wanted to do that in their schools. I think it's a community-based decision in some ways. I don't see many downsides to it. I think that they adorn the gym wall way up high at Basalt Elementary School, and it's colorful and lovely and a great way to really represent all of the cultures that are in our classrooms every day. So, I think, the hurdles are always cost, implementation, what it looks like, and in some ways, to me, it seems more like a school-based decision. So,
Director After?
Yeah, I think it's a nice idea and a nice thought. It might be a nice to have. I don't know that we're in the mode of doing things that are nice to have right now for the conversation about budgets we had earlier, but I also don't want to make something simple overly complicated if it's not. So if you want to bring this forward, fine with me, and I'll just wait to hear from leadership and staff as to if this is something that we can put money toward and that schools are excited about. I am hesitant to tell schools what to do with their physical space from this vantage point. I think we might have a little more, not that it would have the same impact, but what happens in the boardroom maybe is something that we could think about doing. I don't know. I think it's a nice idea. I think the devil's in the details.
Yeah. Director Ramirez?
I think it's a beautiful idea, and I would kind of hope as a board member that this is already happening across the district because we always tout our diversity. But I think that if it's something you want to pursue, I think, it doesn't hurt for us to continue to have the conversation and see who is doing it, who isn't, what does that look like at every school. I don't think that it would be a cost thing necessarily because technically it's, yeah, I guess the flags mostly, but I think my only feedback would be, maybe not the flag poles, but some sort of decorum, showing the diversity of our schools is important. I think we try as much as possible to highlight how we, care deeply about our students and their stories. And so I think it's a good opportunity for us to begin this conversation of how do we do that effectively and create belonging in our schools.
I'm wondering what shape it takes. I know we've talked about resolution and talking to staff about that. I also emailed you. I was digging through policies. I don't know if this is the appropriate one, and Catherine or Kuhlenberg, please roll your eyes at me if it's not. But policy IMDb is about flag displays.
I saw that.
And right now we have a policy on the books that says United States flag, Colorado flag be displayed on a flagpole, administration building has all these specific things. Would it be a place where we could add language like the board encourages schools interested in displaying flags that represent their diverse communities to find an appropriate space without it being kind of the unfunded mandate feel? And then I will transition that right into the 5 minutes of open discussion to get feedback.
Yeah, there's always a potential for that. I think it could live in either resolution or policy. I think it just depends on, I think some conversations and research, maybe a board tracker request to ask who's doing this already or who has this already which like I know there are some schools that already have it. I think GSES might have something similar. So, you know, it's just how do we, like, I think more than anything, it's knowing like what is that gap and then how do we fill that, right? So if it is a resolution, then it's more of an ask. It's more of a like, we are saying, do you guys try to do this? If it's a policy, then there is sort of an added
Yeah.
expectation of like, we are going to celebrate diversity in our schools and therefore please promote the diversity of your students.
Yeah.
It could be either or.
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to know, eventually from staff, like, is this something that they'd be willing to do? I would love for it to be something that our schools are committed to. Again, from, kids' standpoint, like, they don't know what we're doing here in the boardroom and on the board, but they know what their schools look like. And I'd be happy to raise the money for the flags.
Well, I'll follow up with you on potential resolution language and then staff can weigh in as they kind of have a sec to think about capacity before we take any big next steps.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we're talking about national flags,
Yeah,
because flags can represent a lot of different things and causes.
just flags from
And like,
countries.
we're like,
Yeah.
the Israeli flag, the Ukrainian flag,
Mm.
all that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not afraid of controversy, but
Right.
this is gonna bring it.
I just wanted to represent the students that we have, not the whole world, just the students that we have. Is my vision.
And we do have students from,
Can I offer framing, please?
Yeah.
I wonder if, if it becomes a policy, if this is the highest leverage mandate from the board aligned to our goals. I share the interest, Director Nimmo, 100%. And I think it's an important question of how do our schools visually create spaces that are welcoming and representative of students. And I think that that's a really fair question to ask. And I don't have any opposition to fly. I think the schools that have done it, it's been meaningful and it's really reflective of their community and those decisions. I do, I think someone said it like, I would want the schools to want this. And I don't know if telling them to do it will make them want it. But I think it's worth asking questions about how we do create welcoming spaces that reflect the diversity of the kids that we serve and are so privileged, right? We always think we have these, like one of the gifts of the Roaring Fork schools, we have these small community schools that provide this kind of global international educational opportunity for kids. So I just wonder if there's ways to approach it that feel less prescriptive of the board mandating to schools what they display, which I guess you do with, mandating the American flag and the Colorado flag. And just wonder if there's a way to get at the same interest from curiosity and finding out how kids and staff have found ways to reflect their community. But yeah, maybe we could continue to think about it. But I absolutely celebrate and support the interest.
Yeah, and then just being new, I don't understand fully, what levers I have to pull to, to talk to people or figure any of that out. So, let me know.
I can say just from a practical standpoint that in the schools that you represent, if you're at their SLCs, if you're at your SACs, you could start gauging that interest with parents and see if you can start at small scale. And that doesn't have to be within your role as a board member, right? Like that could be a community-based, I'm going to my SLC anyway, or whatever it's called in your community, or my SAC. And this is something that I would love to see us do. And
Good point.
try it out. Like it doesn't have to be in your board capacity. You don't have to put on your board hat to pursue something like that. And I know sometimes it's hard to differentiate board hat and person hat.
Yeah, it's hard.
Glad to be here.
But that is probably how
Okay.
I personally would attack it if it was something
Okay.
that.
Yeah. All right. I appreciate the feedback. Yeah.
I appreciate the agenda time too as well. I think our kind of right sizing, yeah, how do we have those discussions when a board member has a question of where does this go? So thank you for bringing it forward. I think
Yeah.
that was really appropriate.
The next business in order is a discussion on policy AE-R, the DAC SAC policy update, and Director Ramirez will now present her proposal.
Yeah, I just wanted to give everyone a heads up that we are working on this. I think we can't remember now, Jonathan, what the last email went out to Bridget, but we are setting up conversations now to start updating this policy just in regards to DAG SAC norms, and I think it's important, it's necessary for us and for the DAC's ability to keep going and their longevity. So just wanted to give the board an update on that.
About 2 minutes for discussion, Director After.
Thanks for doing that. Really appreciate it.
Director Nemo.
Same, thanks.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yep, let us know how we can support.
Yeah.
All right, the next business in order is board updates and appreciations. Let's begin with Director After.
Great. Just give me a second to get some notes from. Okay. Anna and I attended the January 23rd half-day BOCES quarterly board meeting on Friday. It was very full. We got to meet some new board members from neighboring districts, new to me. Were they all new to you? Yeah. Cassie Haskell from RE2, Kayla Graham from DeBeck School District 49 JT. She was on video. And then also new to me was Dr. Tinker Duclos, who's an ex officio member of the BOCES board now from CMC. And then Anna was there as well as Dr. Ba from Parachute Superintendent. Thank you. So I'll just go through the notes really quick. We had an audit presentation from our auditor, Paul. So that was very familiar, and basically for your all's awareness, there's $4.7 million in the BOCES general fund. There's a deficit net position of $5 million directly related to pension liability, not to be concerned, positive fund balance of 2.4 million. All looking good there. We had a long conversation about early childhood, which is partly why I was asking about 7A earlier, partly because of a desire from, excuse me, Yampa to potentially open up the child care facility and the teen parent program to other community members, excuse me, to raise revenue. I'm gonna start coughing, so someone else go ahead and come back to me.
Okay. Director Nemo, would you like to go? Updates or appreciations?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was like, wait, what are we talking about?
Thank you.
No, I mean, I think my updates are just, yeah, that I've finally got into the school board partners and, trying to, just get more, just get a little stronger, a little clearer on how to be a good, useful part of this group. I'm excited to get more into that. I don't have, and I'm just really grateful for the board. I'm grateful for all of you, grateful for our community who cares enough to show up. And thanks to Christy and Rodrigo and just everybody here who's helping us so much.
Oh, that's fun.
Little appreciation.
Did you sit down?
Thank you.
Surprise.
Thank you, Jonathan.
I'm alive again.
Director After, would you like to finish your comment?
I'm so sorry. Were you done, Tammy?
Yeah.
Okay. I finally have a substantive update and I start coughing. Okay. Anyway, we had a great conversation. Basically, Yampa's teen parenting program is curious about being able to raise revenue by opening up the childcare that they provide at Yampa to teen parents, to staff or teen parent program graduates. Anna and I just had a lot of questions about the revenue model exactly. And as a result, we ended up tabling that proposal And anecdotally, she shared that teen pregnancy is on the rise, which she didn't really get into, but I thought that was an interesting note. So anyway, more to come, but I'm super interested, and we can talk offline about how to connect with the 7A folks to start seeing that revenue realized, or at least so that we can budget for it. DeBeck School District 49 JT, which has about 200 students in it, is joining the administrative unit of BOCES. BOCES CFO is retiring in June. I don't know if you caught that. We voted for officers. Vinny Tomasulo from Garfield 16 will continue to be the president. Krista from Aspen will be the vice president. I got voted in as the secretary. And then important for this crew is that Leon, the executive director, his annual review is happening soon with Vinny and Krista doing it. It's not going to be like what we do for our leadership reviews. If you guys have anything you want to share that would be appropriate for his review, then please share that with me and Anna, and we can share it with Vinny. Oh, and then, sorry, one important thing, the Yampa agnostic review that I've told you guys about a little bit, it's in the process now. It won't schedule to finish until April or May. And then I don't know with that schedule, like they might not come present it to us until next year. Probably. What do you think? So anyway, those are the details. I'm happy to add more if anyone has questions about anything, but it's a very long meeting, but all good.
Thank you. Director Ramirez.
Well, we had DAC 2 weeks ago. It was great. I think, just to follow up, like we're working on the conversation around the DAC SEC update on policy. I also had the opportunity to meet with the director of the Basalt Library yesterday, Amy Shipley. It went really well. And so now the follow-up, the next steps is scheduling a meeting between both of the library directors and our superintendent and myself, just to have further conversation. It seems really feasible, really easy. We started going through some of the other school districts who have a similar program and who are doing that work. And Summit County has one. The town of Bell has one. Academy District has one. Eagle County has one. So I think it's something that we all feel very excited about. That it is replicable and it is easy. It sounds like the company that issues the library cards for Garfield and Basalt is the same company. So that is really promising, because then we might be able to just take student IDs and use them as the library cards. So very exciting conversation. I look forward to that work, and I'll be sending out some follow-up to everybody just to keep everyone aware of the conversation. So excited to have that project.
Director Kuhlenberg?
Sure. Updates and appreciations?
I think so.
Yeah, okay. Updates. So I sat on my first housing committee call last week. I was kind of coming in at the end of their process of reviewing those homeownership guidelines that we discussed tonight. So that was their final conversation in that process. But it was a great group of people, lively discussion and participants. And Chief Baumfuck does a great job running those and keeping them on track. And I'm excited for what's to come on that committee. Healthcare last month was more discussion about potential offerings. Our upcoming meeting has been postponed because we won't have rates yet. So I don't have another update on that, but I expect in coming months, there will be more to share from healthcare committee. And then policy committee, as you all saw, we had no new policy reads for tonight. So a little bit of a break, but we'll be back at it next round. I have two appreciations for this week. One, I wanted to give a shout out to Michelle Oger from Blue Lake, who hosted the kindergarten information night on Tuesday, which was an opportunity for all of the school leaders, private schools, public schools to come together at the Eagle County Community Building and parents to come and hear from all of them when they're making decisions about kindergarten. She puts that on annually and it is a great event. As a preschool director, I appreciate it because we have a lot of choices in our valley and it's helpful for people to understand what those are and be able to meet. And then my other appreciation is not staff, which is what I usually do, but the opposite. It's parents, moms who devote all of their time to our public schools. I sat on a SAC meeting last night that had the most participants that I've ever seen at a SAC for Basalt Middle School. And again, it was just a great discussion, good engagement, and just reflecting on the impact that parents have on education and that they should have on education. And the fact that so many of them make time in their schedules to be there and engaged. It was, and I went to the BES SAC last week and I'm going to go to the BHS one next week just to kind of touch on with all. But so that's my appreciation for tonight because it is a commitment and it's a lot. So I'm grateful for everybody that engages.
Yeah, I've got a number of updates. Briefly, I was able to sit in on the Two Rivers Community School SAC and enjoyed Jamie's presentation of their budget audit and his frank discussion with parents about some of the realities that are, budget shifts and the attachment of funding to certain student populations groups may have impacts on their bottom line. And I thought he did a nice job of bringing that forward so that people could understand it. I appreciated them inviting me. I sat in on lots of acronyms. The Labor Management Committee had another meeting, and again, we're working through that translation of the collective bargaining contract into the IBB process, the interest-based bargaining process that is ongoing, which I also was in all of yesterday afternoon, and some updates there I'm going to dive into in just a second. I've also been on the Mill Levy Override Exploratory Committee, and I'm not going to go into that right now because we're going to get a substantive update on February 11th with a lot more information from Dr. Cole, and I'll be connecting with you all on a little bit around that as we get closer. We're still quite a ways out from that, and we're in this exploratory phase, so it's been moving forward, and it's just about time to kind of get things kind of out in front and everybody's on the same page, so expect to see some of that coming. So interest-based bargaining mid-year update was yesterday, and Dr. Cole, please interrupt me if I get off track here. She was there as well. We got a very good update on finances from Chief Chicoine, very similar to what you all just saw, because that informs the teachers' decisions to continue on how they approach bargaining around salaries and a bunch of their other interests. And so they had great questions, and we kind of looked at some of those difficult realities that we've seen here. Some conversation themes that came up. Staffing models were a big focus of the conversation, both for school teachers as well as district office. It's something that there was quite a bit of interest in. And there was some work done on behalf, or the RFCEA did, to bring together a kind of holistic look at that, which I'm going to share with you all. I think, Jasmine, I saw you in the document. You must have gotten a hold of that one. It's pretty interesting, and I'm definitely going to send it around, so you can expect to see that. Talking about where we kind of, the history of DO staffing and some of the, perennial concerns about balancing that with classroom staff as well. We talked about the simplification interest. They want to do less better. There's a focus on early release Wednesdays. And then there was quite a bit of discussion as well around making sure that the work that's being done and the interests that are being brought forward are appropriately connected to the contract, if they're ones that can be MOUs, or if they are ones where we need to sit and have a really clear conversation about what the outcome is going to be. And all of that is defined under our negotiation policy, HC. And then I had to leave at 4 to grab kids. Did I miss anything at the end of that? Okay. We're going to hear more from them in February, and then early March is when the subcommittees present. So I think I might need time on a work session in February and then I was looking at the perpetual calendar. We can work that out later, but again, more to come on that. So I think that gets us caught up on most of the meetings. And then my appreciations are definitely in the patience of staff and leadership as I get my feet under me as chair. And please just know that I'm always open to things I'm missing because I'm definitely missing things. So please reach out if it's what you need me to know. I'm open to all types of feedback and I'll do my best to keep up with it. It is nonstop.
Thank you.
Appreciation to others who have sat here before me. And did I miss appreciations from everybody? Did anyone,
I skipped it,
oh,
but just
no worries.
thank you to my fellow board members who get to do this job with me. That's it. It's a board member appreciation month, so. You only get one next year.
Nailed it. All right. Okay. Well, if there's no further business and there's no objection, the meeting will be adjourned. It is 8:55 PM.